Affirm shares falling after the buy now, pay later firm reported quarterly results. They were overall positive with a beat on the top and bottom line and raised fourth quarter guidance. The midpoint of the Q4 revenue guidance did fall below the street's expectations. Some analysts say the stock's move lower is not necessarily a cause for concern. Here to dive into the results, we've got Dan Dolev, who is the Mizuho Americas Senior Financial Technology Analyst. I just want to get your own analysis here with Affirm.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what's happening today is just an expectations management problem more than any other problem. So there's some like third-party data that tracks credit card receipts, and they were telling investors that the results are going to be like X, and I think that might have fallen short of that expectation. But it's really they beat their guide, they upped the guide. In this environment, upping the guide is like a really strong sign, right? They're telling you that even in a recession, they're not going to do as badly as people think. And by the way, we've done some proprietary work that shows you that the lower rates that come with a recession can more than offset the decline in volume from tightening the credit box. So taken together, all of this stuff, I mean, I think it's a huge buying opportunity right here.
And so with this in mind, as we're taking a look at the full year forecast here on the screen, what are some of the keys for this company, especially knowing that the core customer that they're going after is one that's perhaps looking at opportunities to kind of offset some of those large purchases or space them out in an environment where they might feel a little bit more pressured about some of those discretionary dollars?
So it's a great question. They're getting into more partnerships, right? Like the one with Costco, for example. They're going internationally, right? They're going into Europe. They're in the UK right now. So they're taking share away from Klarna. We've proven that before. So that's like a big thing, right? They're basically crushing them. So they're taking measures that should more than offset sort of the single, call it same store sales or same customer sales if their core customer doesn't consume as much over time. So it's idiosyncratic success story, and that's what we really like about Affirm.
And so as you assess Affirm versus the rest of the environment right now, is this one of the top plays for any investor that wants some type of exposure to a consumer that, is feeling that pressure, is looking for opportunities, and is shopping at some of the major outlets or places, retail partners that Affirm has just rolled out some of these announcements with?
Exactly, because they do have, like, for example, those 0% loans that they're 0% APR loans that they're offering. Those are really attractive for consumers and the merchants because the merchants can play with pricing without, and so they can convert more, right? So the thing is, like, if you just swipe your credit card, if you don't have money and you don't have credit, then you're not going to purchase something. But with buy now, pay later done smart, like Affirm, you can maybe afford to buy something and the merchant can afford to sell it, maybe giving a little bit of a merchant discount rate to Affirm, but then converting and selling the product. So it's actually a great way to play a company that I wouldn't say it's completely acyclical, but it's got a lot of counter-cyclical measures embedded into it, even in this environment.
As you kind of assess the broader fintech landscape here right now, it seems like there have been a lot of announcements coming forward, whether that be on the front of what they're doing to incorporate more crypto opportunities, which I know you and I have talked about in the past, or whether they are just trying to make sure that they are building out a platform that seems a little bit more all-encompassing and kind of having the fintech features without necessarily saying that they're an all-out bank. And so how are we seeing some of the fintech players kind of toe that line, and what is the consumer mindset around them kind of on aggregate right now?
I think the consumer is not as worried about it I think more from a definitional perspective, it's better not to be called a bank, right? Because it comes with a lot more regulatory pressure. Mm-hmm. So I think the consumer very simply, they care about, can they make a purchase? Can they be offered like direct deposits, right? Which is what Affirm does. So can you put some of your paychecks there? So the consumer doesn't care about the actual definition. The consumer cares about functionality. And I think that some companies like Affirm, they give you this like functionality as a consumer that you can have sort of a super app that like a 360 super app that acts like a bank, but it's not really a bank.
Just quickly while we have you here, and I was just thinking about this a second ago after I came back from the market check a second ago. Bitcoin, which you and I have talked about, 100,000, what is the kind of milestone, not even just like the milestone of getting back to 100,000, but What does that signal to you about where we are in the risk appetite for investors?
It's a huge risk asset, right? I mean, it's the quintessential risk asset. I mean, that's what's been proven. It goes down when you have a risk-off trade. We are, our forecast, which we're using basically adoption curves, like we think it's going to get, like maybe like 20-30% higher by the end of the year. This is just based off of like adoption trends of consumers, whether or not you're bullish or bearish on Bitcoin. It's just the more people download those apps and buy it, the more it goes up. Simple as that. So it's a risk asset, and I think it's also like predicting some rate cuts. But I'm only basing my hypothesis on sort of those data points that we're getting in terms of downloads of Bitcoin related apps.
Certainly. Dan, thanks so much for entertaining the question there on Bitcoin as well as the analysis on Affirm here. Good to see you.
Good to see you.